comes a moment, unpredictable yet undeniable, when the fabric of your world begins to unravel, not with chaos, but with a curious softness. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or angelic trumpets, but rather as a silent crack deep within the psyche, like a whisper seeping through a centuries-old wall. For most, life flows like a predictable river, winding, yes, but always obedient to gravity. But for a rare few, that river bends upward, curling against the very laws that govern it. They are the ones for whom gravity begins to feel like suggestion, not command. The ones who sense a pull from beyond the veil. And this pull, this awakening symptom, is not a blessing that glows gently. It scorches, it disrupts, it reconfigures. Only the most powerful chosen ones experience it, and even they sometimes mistake it for madness before recognizing it for what it truly is, initiation into a deeper order. We are not speaking here of ordinary signs, of serendipitous numbers or lucid dreams. No, what we will explore is a rupture so profound it cleaves reality in two, the known and the unknowable. This is not a symptom you choose. It chooses you, and when it arrives, it does so not to comfort, but to excavate. You will feel as though your soul has been turned inside out, your desires replaced with aching questions, your pleasures soured by invisible truths. You may walk the same streets, greet the same faces, but something elemental has shifted beneath your feet. You are no longer on the path. You are becoming the path, and that is why you must stay until the very end of this journey. Because understanding this awakening symptom, why it comes, what it means, and how to survive it, can be the difference between collapsing under the weight of your transformation or rising like fire through your own ashes. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, do so now. The content you're about to explore isn't just meant to inform, it's meant to activate, to stir something ancient within you, to remind you of who you were before you forgot. This awakening symptom is not loud, but it is relentless. It won't speak in language. It will speak in symbols, in patterns, in the sudden sense that you no longer fit the architecture of your old life, as though your bones have outgrown the frame of your skin. You may find yourself staring at your own reflection and feeling that it no longer belongs to you. Not because you have changed, but because something deeper has surfaced, something that was always buried beneath your name, your memories, your roles. A timeless essence that the world tried to hide in labels. You will start to feel time warping. The past collapses into the now. The future drips into the present like candle wax. You will be haunted not by ghosts, but by your unlived potential. Some call this the sacred wound. Others call it ego death, soul retrieval, or divine discontent. But naming it doesn't contain it. It's a symptom that behaves like a riddle, refusing to explain itself until you stop demanding answers and start listening with your soul. And that's what makes it the hallmark of the truly chosen, not because they are better or more deserving, but because they are wired to survive the burning. They are constructed to carry the unbearable truths of existence, not as burdens, but as blueprints. They are not here to blend in. They are here to expose the matrix and rewrite the code. This sacred unraveling begins subtly, a loss that seems too precise to be random, a dream that repeats, an overwhelming compassion for strangers, a growing intolerance for the mundane. Foods taste different. Music cuts deeper. You find yourself crying at sunsets or questioning the purpose of a handshake. You may look at the sky and feel as though it's watching you back. You may lose everything, career, reputation, health, only to discover it was all scaffolding for the real construction, the rebirth of your divine architecture. This symptom does not come to make you holy. It comes to make you whole, to reclaim every exiled part of you, the forgotten artist, the inner child, the cosmic traveler, the quiet rebel, the gentle warrior, the ancient being inside your ribs. It forces you to integrate them one by one, even when it feels like a spiritual demolition project. You're not losing your mind. You're expanding your container, and expansion hurts. But that's what makes you powerful, not because you conquer the darkness, but because you become intimate with it. You see its purpose. You recognize that the darkness was never the enemy. It was the womb. We are going to explore this symptom not as a diagnosis, but as a calling card from another realm, a fingerprint of the sacred that appears only on those who have agreed, consciously or not, to carry a light so potent it threatens the illusions that bind humanity. If this is happening to you, it is not a curse. It is a confirmation. You are not breaking down. You are breaking through. At the heart of this awakening symptom lies a paradox so profound it defies the intellect, yet speaks fluently to the soul. To awaken is not to gain something new, but to remember something ancient. It's less a discovery than a return, like a lighthouse reactivating on a foggy shore, pulsing again after centuries of silence. Only the most powerful chosen ones experience this remembering as a storm, not a breeze, because their light, once recalled, is too bright to flicker quietly. It demands change, not comfort, and in this sacred confrontation, everything false must dissolve. The first core thread we must pull is the illusion of identity. This awakening begins when your outer mask starts to rot at the edges, not with malice, but from an inner truth growing too large to be contained. You find yourself at odds with your name, your history, your social roles. You are not abandoning them. You are simply realizing they were garments, not skin. And as the skin underneath breathes, it exposes you to winds both cosmic and ancient. You are no longer defined by who you were told you are. You are becoming a question that even the universe pauses to contemplate. This spiritual symptom brings with it a rupture in the linear. Time itself bends. Chosen ones often experience an eerie elasticity of time, as though past lives bleed into present dreams, or the future leaves breadcrumbs in the present moment. Hours feel like seconds. Seconds feel eternal. This is not psychosis. It is perception unshackled. The mind, once trained to view life as a calendar of tasks and clocks, begins to feel like a passenger in a much older vessel, one not bound to chronology, but to rhythm. And this rhythm is not man-made. It is soul-made. Another fundamental concept is sacred disorientation. The moment the veil lifts, reality becomes too sharp, too symbolic, too overwhelming. You see the interconnection in all things, and it's no longer poetic metaphor, it's visceral. The tree outside your window begins to communicate with you. The eyes of a passing stranger flicker with a recognition you cannot name. Your body, once taken for granted, becomes a living antenna buzzing with information from realms unseen. And this sensory influx doesn't come with a manual. The chosen must learn to feel their way through it, to trust the inner compass over the outer map. This is why so few speak openly about it, because language collapses under the weight of the experience. It's like trying to translate the feeling of lightning into grammar. You feel alone, not because no one loves you, but because few can follow you where you've been. Chosen ones often sense a divine loneliness, not an absence of company, but the absence of resonance. You walk among many, yet feel as though you've already been to a place they don't know exists, and you ache, not to leave them behind, but to find others who remember, others who are glowing from the inside out, unraveling just as you are. This symptom also breaks the illusion of control. The ego, which once orchestrated your life with spreadsheets and plans, finds itself demoted, and it panics. Suddenly, your old goals feel hollow, your ambitions feel synthetic. What used to fuel you now feels toxic. You begin to lose interest in the game, but that's not depression, that's detox. Your soul is recalibrating to a new signal, one that doesn't shout but sings, one that vibrates through silence. The chosen ones must endure this void, for in that silence the divine voice finally echoes back. One of the most shocking revelations during this stage is the crumbling of duality, right and wrong, light and dark, good and evil. These lines begin to blur, not into chaos, but into unity. You start to see that the monster and the angel are mirrors of the same lesson, that your pain and your purpose are not separate roads, but different languages for the same truth. And this realization humbles you. It silences judgment. It creates space for compassion to bloom, not as moral superiority, but as recognition. I see you in me. It is also common for the body to become a crucible during this process. Physical symptoms emerge: migraines, exhaustion, heart palpitations, spontaneous tears, bursts of euphoria followed by deep fatigue. These aren't signs of sickness, they are signs of shedding. The chosen ones feel in their flesh what most avoid in their mind. The awakening rewires them at the cellular level. It purifies. It breaks open the nervous system so that it can carry higher frequencies. And it hurts, but it's holy pain. Lastly, the chosen ones often find themselves magnetized toward truth. Truth that is raw, inconvenient, sometimes terrifying. They see through systems. They feel the lies beneath smiling faces. They become allergic to manipulation and hungry for wisdom. This can lead to periods of isolation. But solitude is not punishment. It's preparation. The chrysalis must close so the wings can form. The symptom we are discussing is not simply a wake-up call. It is a portal, a summons, a cosmic fingerprint pressed into your daily life, disrupting the ordinary so you may glimpse the eternal. It is the whisper beneath the scream, the silence beneath the noise, the signal within the static. Imagine a temple submerged beneath centuries of sand, its columns cracked, its altars buried, yet still humming with a strange warmth beneath the surface. The chosen ones carry such temples inside them, structures not built by hands, but by lifetimes of quiet yearning and cosmic memory. When the spiritual awakening symptom strikes, it is not merely a psychological event. It is as if lightning has struck the sand, and the temple begins to rise again. Piece by piece, your soul's architecture reveals itself through symbols, dreams, and uncanny synchronicities. These aren't coincidences. These are the mythic breadcrumbs that guide you back home. To illuminate this mysterious terrain, we must now enter the language of symbols, those ageless metaphors encoded within every culture, religion, and esoteric tradition. For the symptom we speak of is not just experienced, it is lived through stories that echo with the rhythm of the infinite. These aren't just fairy tales, these are spiritual mirrors. Let us begin with the story of the phoenix, not just the bird of flame, but the deeper geometry of its narrative. The phoenix doesn't merely die, it combusts by choice when the time is right, in full awareness that its death is its rebirth. This is the energetic metaphor many chosen ones embody. The awakening symptom often feels like a slow immolation of everything once familiar, identity, beliefs, ambitions, burning away until only essence remains. It's not a punishment, it's a sacred choreography. You are not being erased, you are being reauthored. Or consider the myth of the blind prophet, Tiresias. Cursed with blindness, yet gifted with second sight. Many chosen ones report a similar inversion. As their worldly clarity dissolves, inner knowing blooms. It feels like going blind to what the world calls real, only to begin perceiving a subtler architecture beneath it all. You start to read energy instead of faces, feel truth behind silence, and decode meaning from seemingly random moments. The symptom often arrives with this paradox. You know less with your mind, but more with your being. In another mythic pattern, drawn from alchemical symbolism, the symptom resembles the nigredo, the blackening phase. This is the moment when the alchemist's materials decay and decompose, necessary before transmutation can occur. It is the dark night of the soul. The chosen ones endure this not because they are weak, but because they are strong enough to witness their inner death without fleeing. They stand in the blackness until the gold emerges. The spiritual symptom doesn't just invite them into that darkness, it seals the door behind them, so they may find the light within themselves rather than chasing it externally. And then there is the ancient archetype of the wounded healer, the figure, often a shaman, priestess, or outcast, who is marked not by perfection, but by pain. Their wound becomes their gateway. For chosen ones, this symptom is often preceded by a rupture, a trauma, illness, or existential collapse. Yet strangely, it is through this rupture that they become conduits for healing, not by bypassing their pain, but by carrying it like a lantern. Their suffering becomes sacred intelligence. Their story becomes medicine. One might also consider the symbolic journey of Moses, not merely a prophet, but a man born into privilege only to reject it, wander through a desert, and speak with fire. This is the path of dislocation. Chosen ones often feel exiled, not geographically, but metaphysically. They look around and realize that the world they once trusted is a mirage. They are pulled into an inner wilderness where meaning seems to vanish, until they encounter a voice from a burning bush within. The symptom often brings with it this isolation, but also revelation. Let's not forget the spider, long seen as a totem of the great weaver. The spider spins its web from within. It creates its reality, thread by thread, from the essence of its own body. The chosen ones experiencing this awakening often begin to feel the same. They sense that their reality is no longer a product of circumstance, but of vibration. They begin to weave with intention, with energy, with truth. They stop reacting to the world and start sculpting it. The web becomes not a trap, but a portal. These metaphors are not decoration, they are keys. The awakening symptom cannot be understood solely by intellect. It must be witnessed through myth, because myth lives where logic cannot breathe. The chosen ones live these stories not because they are fiction, but because they are blueprints. When your life begins to mirror these symbolic arcs, it's not insanity, it's sacred design. When you feel like the phoenix mid-burn, or the prophet in exile, or the alchemist in darkness, know this: you are not lost. You are being initiated into the oldest of covenants. That consciousness must descend before it ascends, that you must unbecome to become. This symptom speaks in riddles because you are meant to answer it with embodiment, not explanation. To walk the labyrinth, not analyze the map. These symbols, these sacred echoes, aren't just stories. They're signatures of your soul's original contract, reactivating through crisis, through curiosity, through courage. To live as one of the chosen is not to float above the world in a haze of enlightenment. It is to walk barefoot across the earth, cracked open and unguarded, while carrying a fire that can't be seen but can set lives ablaze. The spiritual awakening symptom, so symbolic, so mythic in its inner experience, eventually demands translation into the flesh and clay of everyday life. And this is perhaps the most difficult passage of all. The descent from the mountain, the return from the cave, the reintegration into a world that still spins while your axis has been entirely rearranged. For the chosen ones, integration does not mean shrinking back into old shapes. It means allowing the newly awakened self to root deeply into the tangible, to let the electricity of their revelations become food, conversation, work, and service. It means learning how to exist in both worlds, the world of shimmering insight and the world of dishes, bills, eye contact, and silent small sufferings that fill the spaces between words. The sacred must become practical. The cosmic must clothe itself in skin. You may find, after the rupture, that old relationships no longer hold, not from bitterness, but from vibration. You are tuned differently now. People who once completed your sentences now misunderstand your silence. Work that once felt like purpose now tastes like cardboard. It can feel like grief, like betrayal. But it is not cruelty, it is clarity. The symptom reveals what was artificial, what was karmic, what was borrowed, and in its place, it calls for radical honesty, the kind of honesty that can't be faked, the kind that cracks open your voice when you speak your truth in rooms that once silenced you. Many chosen ones feel the urge to isolate after their awakening symptom, temporarily vanishing from the noise, retreating into stillness. This is not avoidance, it is sacred preparation. Just as a seed splits open underground, the chosen must fracture privately before they bloom publicly. Stillness becomes medicine. Nature becomes therapist. Silence becomes temple. But eventually, the integration begins when they re-enter the world, not as servants of the illusion, but as emissaries of truth. In daily life, this might look like suddenly caring about what you used to ignore, like paying attention to the energy behind someone's words, not just the words, like becoming intolerant of deception in any form, even self-deception. You may change your diet not out of trend, but because your body demands it. You may start to dream vividly and wake with instructions that feel like they weren't yours, but came from somewhere older, wiser. You may find yourself crying during a conversation with a stranger because something unspoken passed between you, an ancient recognition across a modern facade. And then there are the moments where your presence alone begins to shift the field. You speak less, but your energy speaks more. People open up to you without knowing why. Animals stare. Children sense something in you. You begin to attract others who are also unraveling, who need a mirror or a map. You become the lighthouse, not because you are flawless, but because you refuse to pretend anymore. Integration is not about convincing the world of your awakening. It's about embodying the light so fully that you become an invitation without saying a word. The practical implication of this spiritual symptom is responsibility, not to fix others, not to ascend into some untouchable vibration, but to live with fierce authenticity in a world drowning in performance, to let your pain refine you instead of define you, to speak even when your voice shakes, to love even when you're scared, to serve even when you're still bleeding. Because the world doesn't need more perfect people, it needs more real ones. And yes, there will be friction. The world may not reward your truth immediately. Systems were built to favor conformity, not awakening. But chosen ones are not here for applause. They are here for alignment. They are not here to fit in. They are here to remember. And their remembering becomes a kind of spiritual activism, a quiet revolution, an embodied protest against sleep. This is the sacred paradox. The more awakened you become, the more deeply human you must learn to be. To hold your light while washing the dishes, to speak divine truths while stuck in traffic, to bless the ordinary until it becomes holy again. Because awakening isn't escape, it's incarnation. It's not about leaving the matrix. It's about walking into it with eyes wide open, heart undefended, and soul fully lit. You will falter. You will forget. But even that is sacred. Because integration is not a straight path. It's a spiral. A remembering that deepens each time you return to it. And in every mundane moment, the chance to practice what your soul already knows. So here you are, standing at the end of a path that isn't truly an end, but a threshold, a spiral curve that leads inward, not outward. You've followed the call of a symptom so sacred and strange that most will never speak its name aloud. You've heard the silence roar louder than words, felt the tremble of forgotten truths shake your bones, and now the question arrives not with fanfare, but as a whisper in your chest. What will you do with the light that has chosen you? The awakening symptom you've endured, are enduring, is not a random spiritual crisis. It is a carefully timed detonation from within, an encoded sequence set to go off the moment you were ready to unravel, the moment your inner scaffolding was strong enough to carry the weight of the fire. It was never meant to be easy. It was never meant to be comfortable. It was meant to forge you, to break apart every illusion until what remained was the indestructible truth of who you are, beneath all roles and names, a living portal, a human flame, a chosen one, not by title, but by transmission. If you've made it this far, through the burn, the wilderness, the hollowing out of ego, and the reconstruction of essence, then you already know this journey cannot be reversed. You cannot go back. You cannot return to sleep now that you've tasted the raw honey of truth. And that's the beauty of it. Awakening is irreversible. You can dim your light, but you cannot extinguish it. You can pause your path, but the path will find you again. Because the chosen are not defined by their certainty, but by their willingness to continue walking, even when the map has burned and the road disappears beneath their feet. This is the transformational call, and it does not arrive with trumpets or angels. It arrives in subtle, trembling ways, in the way you choose to speak truth in spaces that reward lies, in the way you choose love when it's easier to hate, in the way you soften when you're told to harden. It arrives in how you show up for others, not as a savior, but as a mirror. Not to lead with power, but to walk in presence. Not to perform light, but to become it. You may still ask, why me? And the answer is both simple and infinite, because you can hold it. Because the cosmos saw in you the strength to die and be reborn. Not once, but again and again. Because your soul remembers its mission, even when your mind forgets. You are here to build bridges between dimensions, to hold space for others' unraveling, and to anchor the sacred into the profane. You are not a mistake. You are a message, one sent through time, encoded in flesh, ignited by pain, and destined to illuminate. But remember this, no chosen one walks alone. You may feel isolated, but there are others, many others, scattered like stars, awakening in sync with you. Some you will meet in the physical world, others only in dream or recognition, but their hearts beat with the same rhythm, their eyes carry the same ancient knowing, and when you find them, the ache of this path softens, not because the world becomes easier, but because it becomes shared. So as you rise from this spiral of remembrance, let your awakening ripple outward, not as a sermon, but as a frequency. Let your choices carry your vibration. Let your healing become your legacy. Let your stillness speak louder than your words. And above all, trust this. You were chosen not to dominate, but to illuminate, not to ascend above, but to root deeply into the mystery and reveal its treasures through your life. You are not here by accident. You are not imagining this. You are not losing your mind. You are losing what was never truly yours and gaining what was buried in your soul's blueprint long before you were born. You were called. You answered. Now walk forward, not as who you were, but as what you've become. A beacon, a bridge, a fire. Only the most powerful chosen ones experience this spiritual awakening symptom, and now you know why.